Now, many of our Christians have what I call the goo-goo syndrome. Good government. They want everybody to vote. I don't want everybody to vote. Elections are not won by a majority of people. They never have been from the beginning of our country, and they are not now. As a matter of fact, our leverage in the elections, quite candidly, goes up as the voting populace goes down.
I don't want to waste any time. I asked the question, who are the real children of Israel? And I'd like to answer it right away.
Go ahead, dear minister.
Like any good lawyer in a courtroom, he tells you what he's going to prove.
All right.
And then he goes ahead and proves it and let the jury make the decision. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad has said that Almighty God Allah revealed to him that the black people of America are the real children of Israel. And we are the choice of God. And that unto us he will deliver his promise.
First and foremost, giving all honor and praise to the creator of the heavens and the earth. We thank that great God for his benevolence, for his mercy, for his grace. We thank him for our ancestors in whatever form or fashion they may be found. We thank him for our founding fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We thank him for Moses and the Torah. We thank him for Yeshua and his revolutionary approach to the new gospel. And we thank him for Prophet Muhammad ibn Abdullah for the Holy Quran. Peace be upon all of those noble and worthy servants of Almighty God. But surely, if I can thank that great God, I know only of study, only of scripture. I must surely thank him for those who he has sent in this dispensation of time. And I could go on and on thanking Almighty God for the men and women who he has sent to be a witness bearer of the greatness that is to come to implement freedom, justice, and equality. But I must surely take the time out to thank those who have personally helped form, shape, and mold me into the man I pray one day to be. So I'm eternally grateful for the most honorable Elijah Muhammad and the God that he represents, Master Farad Muhammad. I thank him for his students, the Honorable Brother Minister Louis Farrakhan, and all of those in the Nation of Islam under his leadership and guidance. I thank him for Brother Munir Muhammad. May Almighty God be pleased with his life and his service. The members of Crow, the co-founders, Brother Shaheed Muslim and Halif Muhammad, and all of those who are striving for righteousness. I am grateful to that great God again for sending his angel to impregnate our spiritual leader, His Excellency Ben Ami HaMashiach, with the vision to return back to a land that was not known to our people, but the land of our fathers, to reestablish land, language, and culture. I thank him for Nasik Shaliach, that master teacher who taught us through his prophetic writings the true nature of prophecy and of the manifestation of our responsibility in this day and time. And if those two were to form a spiritual child, it will most certainly be the man that gave birth to me, not just in a physical sense, but in a spiritual, emotional, and mental sense. The Holy Redeeming Angel, my father, my teacher, my example, Prince Asiel Ben Israel, and those holy and righteous names, I greet you, my brothers and sisters, in the words of peace. Shalom Aleichem. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be unto you. As always, it's an honor, it's a privilege, it's a pleasure to be before you, to have the opportunity to again blow that trumpet in this day and time. And I want to first acknowledge last weekend, which I enjoyed immensely with my father. I had him on when we were out of the state in the city of Montgomery, Alabama. And I thank those in that city who received us to the highest extent. It was a beautiful experience as we trekked through the civil rights movement and those monumental moments in that time period, and were able to give perspective and tie into the reality of our people, all of the different contributions that were given to freedom, justice, and equality on behalf of those chosen people. And again, this is why I'm so propelled to do this work. You know, I was having a beautiful conversation with my brother earlier today. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much, my brother. I was so honored to have a beautiful conversation with my brother, the Moray, this morning. And he was sharing to me all of the different nuances that's involved in the ups and downs of our people, and sometimes their inability to activate their true nature and to be held back by a lot of the trauma, the pain, the circumstances, and just really the inability to even know the power that they possess. And in our conversation, as he was articulating his position, which I received and I agreed with wholeheartedly, he was telling me how blessed I was to be in a position that I am in, to even have the wherewithal, the understanding, the humility, and the desire to do this work. He said, you were blessed beyond proportions that are even conceivable to you at this present moment. All of the things that were placed in your life, that you were nurtured with, that you were developed in, is for you to fulfill this work and this responsibility. So you must, with that power that you possess, with that understanding, always remember that you didn't make yourself, nor are you an island unto yourself, that you were groomed, that you were fashioned, that you were formed for the behalf of God and God's people and the redemption of his people and the fulfillment of that vision and that work. And this is why I do this. This is why even in my opening, and I've stated it over and over again, and if I addressed it over and over again, that I continuously uplift those, and I'm still doing a disservice and injustice to those who have contributed to my reality even up until this point. But those fundamental building blocks and the men that I named that allowed me to even be able to articulate this position. Though I am actively participating in my evolution and my growth, it was because of those who have planted the seed in me, who watered me, who nurtured me, who were patient enough with me, but at the same time, stern enough with me to see the bigger picture. I am saying that not as a sense of me lifting myself up to start this conversation off, because it goes in line to what I'm going to be talking about today. But I'm saying that we cannot disregard those who have been in our life in whatever form or fashion to help grow, develop, and push us further than we are currently at that moment. Don't neglect those who come with a knowledge, even if they are struggling with it themselves to consistently produce what they're teaching you to do. We can't omit that we are all coming out of a sin-sick world, that we are all subject to a lot of the traumas of 400 plus years of being disconnected from land, language, culture, from your identity, from your mores, from your fourways, from all of the things that make you who you are. See, that even when you come into the knowledge of self, even when you come into a level of truth, intellect, and you even implement it, those residues of that detrimental behavior and reality that we have been under for 400 plus years and even longer than that cannot be overlooked. So I'm starting off with this because the subject matter, as I talk about this political atmosphere, and I know it seems to be a little week later, but I had to have the conversation that I had with my father last week. But I want to address this last presidential debate and then subsequently a little bit of the vice presidential debate that just took place this week. But just the blatant examples that we see that this is truly the end of the white supremacist governed America. Subsequently, when America falls, when Babylon the Great falls, when that wicked and great civilization is finished, so will all of the others who are tied into that reality. But the falling of a wicked civilization does not mean that automatically a righteous one will take its place. Study history. Study scripture. Hell, study the present current circumstance that we see ourselves in. Even within this structure, every time we get that wicked, that open and overt racist or demonic spirit, and we just so hell-bent on removing that personality that somebody else takes in that space. You can say what you want about Stalin, Mussolini, Hitler, the list goes on and on and on. History continues to fill that space because we were focused on removing a particular person, a particular identity, a particular characteristic of the group, and not removing the whole system which produced those personalities, those characteristics, those individuals. So we get small-sided in our pursuit of freedom. We become more entrenched into the reality of what's right before our very eyes and not taking a comprehensive look of what's been taking place and what will continue to take place if we don't do what is necessary to remove the system. So you got to go within first and foremost, because how do you allow a system that perpetuates death and degradation, hate and disdain, envy, enmity, outright murder, rape? How do we remove that outwardly if we don't remove it inwardly? See, this is a circumstance that we're going to have to come to grips with. We are allowing, because we practice it in ourselves, we haven't been completely honest with ourselves about the removal of the hate and disdain and the anguish that's within us. So we allow it to proliferate on an external means outside of us. And we try to excuse that reality by making it be personalities and not a pervasive environment that is permeating throughout our people. I'm talking about the end of white America, not just physical white people, but the mind that America that we know of has been governed under for 500 plus years. You built America. I said it in my last Yom Kippur message, and I've said it in other things. You are the architects of most of these European nations and all great nations that have been honored and revered throughout history. But it's a mind that has been used as the center of all of the thought processes that govern those nations that is distinctly different from the mind that we originally had. God has not been in the equation at all. At least the God of justice, God of peace, the God of equity, the God of fairness. But we refuse to be gods ourselves and to take on those attributes. And that's why from the outset of these classes, these messages, the number one focus has always been integrity. As we take a circumspect look throughout history and we revise it with real attentiveness to what has taken place, the mishaps that we've made and the successes that we've been able to implement, we always see our detriment as being at the reality of not being integral in the moments and the times that we should have. That we put ego and pride and personal pursuit of accomplishment over the collective. We succumb to our own devices, which have been implanted and impregnated by outside entities. And because of that self-governance, that self-agency that is needed to be a collective, we have been individualizing the struggle. But that's due to a lack of integrity. I want to start off with a story. I want to listen to this because, again, we have become reliant on a system that is totally based on deception and lies. Listen to me now. We have become reliant on a system that is based, that is governed, that is rooted in deception and lies. We seek refuge in the same system that we know has no ability to implement justice, honesty, integrity, truth, morality. I'm going to read you something from the book Confessions of an Economic Hitman. This was part 2. Now listen to this story. This is actually documented facts. Now this was the author having a conversation with a mercenary that was a part of a coup d'etat. And it starts like this. What did you guys intend to do after you assassinated Renee? He paused, but only for a moment. Get the hell out of there fast. Turn into ghosts, spooks, he laughed at the last word. He went on to explain that the Kenyan army had an aircraft loaded with paratroopers standing by in Nairobi. After the jackals had killed Renee, the Kenyans would immediately arrive to accept credit for the coup. Jack and his team would take commercial airlines to other countries. So I asked, no one was supposed to know that a bunch of white mercenaries had staged this coup? He nodded in agreement. You should simply vanish into thin air, and the world would be told an army of Africans had swept into the continent, killed Renee, destroyed his government, and reinstated the former president. That was the plan. The CIA South African, Diego Garcia, then, listen to this now, they would all be left out of the news. I whistled softly. What a scam. Clever, huh? Yeah. This is what they do continuously now. I didn't bother to mention that it was a direct assault on the foundations of the American political system, that democracy is a farce when voters are intentionally deceived. He responded, except you got caught. Yes. He looked off wistfully, then brightened. But you know what? It all worked out in the end. The South African security forces and the government were our buddies. After the Air Indian plane landed, we were tried and found guilty, and then a couple months later, quietly released. He gave me a knowingly grin, and our so-called failure turned out to be a success. The South African government paid Renee a $3 million bribe to free our 6 guys in prison there. No one was executed. No one stayed jailed for long. After that, Renee cooperated, never exposed Diego Garcia's secrets, and became a friend to the U.S. I mentioned that the undercover agent who concluded that Renee was not corruptible was the reason why we pulled off the job and had been wrong. Now, I wanted to open up with that. Why am I opening up there? Why am I even talking about this? Because we, whether it be social media, even before that, news cycles on television, CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, local news, CLTV, so forth and so on, wherever you are, whether it be newspapers and print. See, we're living in a world where truth is totally been eradicated from the receivers of the news, in particular, those who need it most. This isn't a new concept. This is something that has been done perpetually over time. They know that they're able to control, manipulate the minds of the people because we're malleable people, meaning that we're easily manipulated and convinced to think other than what is actually taking place. Now, I'm stating this because we have been conditioned, one, to think that we're free thinkers, one, to think that we're intellects, one, to think that we are knowledgeable because we stay abreast on what's taking place on the news. We read papers, we study. But if you don't know what to study, you don't know how to study, and you don't know when to connect the dots, you'll be just as lost as a person who never picked up a book, newspaper, or read one article, went down one of their timelines and read a news feed. You're just as ignorant because you're misinformed. And misinformation is worse than being uninformed because now you are operating under the pretenses that you know something. But this is a mind of a people who have given up their desire to be free. Because listen now, it's so many moving parts. America represents and embodies a mass, gigantic magician. It's about sleight of hand. It's about deception. It's about getting your attention one place and then doing something else where you can't even notice it because they implement an objective. But a magician tricks only work because it has to be rooted in deception. If he's honest and open about actually what's taking place, then the magic does not exist. The magic does not exist. So why would you continue to participate? Again, actively say, I want to vote. I want to change the governmental structure by casting my ballot. And this isn't me telling people to vote or not to vote, but I want you to just understand the logic in what we do as a people collectively without taking into consideration what is actually happening. I know that they lie. Trump comes on and says fake news. Fake news existed long before Trump. Even though he's lying, it's about confusion. Put as much confusion out as possible. He's calling other people liars. He's calling other people wicked and crooked. While he's doing the same very thing and has been doing it for decades. Joe Biden is calling Donald Trump a racist and a Proud Boy. But Joe Biden, as far as talking about policy and the things that he's represented in the time as a senator, his 40 plus years, pales into comparison. It makes Donald Trump, I'm talking about on paper, look like a liberal. Makes him look like he's far from being a racist. Makes him look like an integrationist. Based on paper. See, it's about confusion. But we are operating that America, and even the best of us, is a democracy. There's no such thing. Even the so-called founding fathers said or did not use the word democracy at all when their writing of the Constitution took place. They used the word republic. What's the difference? Republic is determined not by the people, but a small designated group who determines all the laws, the rules, and the ordinances of that nation. A small group of people have the power. That's why the founding fathers were called the founding fathers. That's why when you had the Constitutional Convention and the writing of the Declaration and rewriting of the Articles of Confederation, it was just a small group that had the ability to decide the reality, the fate of the masses of people. They're just going back on to what they learned in Rome and so forth and so on. But even in that republic, it's more of, and today is taking the reality, a fascist type of state where it's being more of a dictator type of governance. And I'm not talking Donald Trump as the dictator or the totalitarian. No, the system is. The system is. The system is. The system is. The system of white supremacy. That's what you keep getting. You keep making it about personalities. America has perfected this reality. They've been able to convince us that we're voting or we're participating in the change of government because new people come in. But the people are the same based on what their mission, their objective, and their obligation is. Because we're talking about employees. The presidents of the United States, the congressmen, the senators, the governors, they're all paid employees. Yeah, you may pay them, but you don't employ them. Meaning you don't make the decisions for them. See, that's why we don't, and most Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches this, most importantly, you don't isolate Europeans because they all participate the same. One white person isn't worse than the other. And that's why they try to, you have the Democrats and the lefts give you these Ku Klux Klan, the Proud Boys, these white supremacist radical groups, as if Becky, who's a Democrat, didn't vote my brother to get him incarcerated, or she was on the not the witness stand, but the jury that wrongly convicted him or over convicted him for his crimes. Why little white Ricky, for the same offense, gets a probation. See, that's white supremacy at its best. So how you going to distinguish the two? Because it's a mentality. Now, let's talk about this for a second. We understand that, and this happened in 1787 through the Constitutional Convention and by the founding fathers, that the people would never have the ability to pick a sitting president, nor have they ever had the ability to pick a sitting president. The people, the populace, did not elect George Washington and no other president after that. They put safeguards in. The Electoral College. See, I know we all know this stuff. But if no person makes a vote, the Electoral College would still not just have the capacity or the ability to elect the president, they will. And that's why we see throughout history that they're able to use the Electoral College against the popular vote to determine the president. Again, the system was created. The system's not broken. The system works very fine, but the system was created for you to never have a position, never have a word, never have a say, never have the ability to participate under the current structure to implement your freedom. See, when they made this, it was the same time they came up with the 3/5 compromise, because they were able to use or count you as 3/5 of a person, especially in the South, because you outnumbered majority of the population at that time. Again, same time they came up with the Electoral College, same time they came with the 3/5 compromise, and a number of other things, further proving that a small demographic will stay in control of all the decisions of their populace. Why am I saying this? We already know this. We're already aware of this. Because though they have said that they have added other laws, they've made amendments, They're null and void. They have no benefit. So I'm saying to my people, let me add this into the equation. For us to keep saying that we're going to vote our way, we're going to participate our way, we're going to work our way, we're going to earn enough money, and that's going to put us in a position of affluence, and then that's going to give us enough credibility that we won't be treated and subjected to the same offenses that our people on a lower social scale will, because they try to make it seem as it's a social thing, that we can somehow work our way out of this. The system's not the problem. It's the people. It's individuals. It's Trump. It's George Bush. It's Ronald Reagan. It's this person. It's that person. No, it is not. It's everyone collectively involved. And I say this, to omit that reality shows that we are suffering from a mental illness that we ignore the reality of doing for self. Listen, let me add this caveat. The brain has the ability to be reworked, to be reprogrammed, to be rewired. It's a computer. But because there has been a disconnect from our heart brain and our gut brain, which has the ability to override our cranium brain to say, hold on, this ain't right. Yeah, based on our programming, we may try to convince ourselves that this is a logical decision. No, we didn't have the right to vote. It was held from us. We got the right to vote. Trump seems bad. He seems racist. He's doing this. He's doing that. It's a logical thing to do. But your gut kicks in and say, hold on, this don't mean nothing. We have been showing and participating in every form and facet of this government since its inception, and nothing has changed systemically or systematically. And I would even first say, even on an individual level, it's really not too much change. But yet and still, we continue to progress, or under the false pretenses that we're progressing, by continuing to participate. See, your brain can only pick up to what your physical environment and activities consistently do. So they know if they bombard you with certain activities, with certain visuals, with certain sounds, that you would be seduced by this reality. Therefore, that gut feeling that you're supposed to have, they say follow your gut, but it's actually intellect inside your gut. I could go into the science. I may not go into it right now, but it allows you, when you activate that gut, to override the brain listen to now. It helps you to override the brain to a point where you do things that your survival kicks in. So you don't participate in what you've been conditioned to think is logical. You participate in things that will ensure your safety and your longevity. Participating in this society or any of these European societies or with this European mind is not protecting our livelihood. It's not producing a reality of longevity, of sustainability. It only produces suffering and damnation. So that's why we must understand. I started off, I said, hey, I don't care how much you've read, how much you've learned, how much information and knowledge you have accumulated and immersed yourself in. If you don't know how to connect the dots and you don't have a concrete vision and plan for your redemption, it means nothing. So we must understand that the most brilliant minds and even some of the great healers of our time and of our people are not immune to the illogical behavior that allows them and submit and to capitulate to the biases that stagnate us. I'm going to say that again. I don't care how brilliant you are. I don't care how great of a healer you are. We ain't immune. None of us are immune to the illogical behavior that is based in biases. Think of our people. And one of the things that say, well, we need to unify, we need to work together. See, those are platitudes. They don't have no real meaning. But let me say this. It does if you have a function and a plan. But because of our arrogance, I'm not going to listen. He a Muslim. I'm a Hebrew. I'm biased. Okay, you can be biased. That's fine. I don't want to say the word Allah. Don't say it. I don't want to say the word Yahweh. I don't want to say the word Jesus. Okay. But has everything you've implemented up until this point, has it created what you sought out to do? Has it brought into existence that a reality where you are actually free and you're protected and sustaining your freedom? And those around you are living in peace and bliss? If you don't have that, then you need to remove your biases and be open and receptive to people that can help you implement that in your life. That's why I am embodying all of the men of God who represent truth and pull and ingratiate myself with the knowledge that is supreme to override the laws. I have no bias but truth. Because you can get stagnant. And what is stagnant waters? It's deadly. It's poisonous. What's a stagnant mind? It's deadly. It's poisonous. Who does it kill first? You. So those who commit suicide, which is a terrible thing, we have a lot of people who have committed mental, spiritual suicide every day that's physically walking around. So if we don't study the spiritual and mental psychiatric epidemiology, immunology, and toxicology at a spiritual and mental level, and how to protect ourselves in that realm, it is impossible for us to defend ourselves against the onslaughts of attacks and death cycles that are implemented. See, you don't understand the toxic words, the toxic sayings that are just as effective as drinking poison. You don't understand how to build your immune system up, not just from eating the proper fruits and vegetables, but the immune system that you are able to curtail lies, but take in truth. That's why I said, if you're listening to the news based on face value, your immune system is non-existent. That means you'll fall for anything. So you're going around in circles. How do you defeat a people? How do you take over people? You confuse them. And you keep them in a perpetual state of confusion. With the lack of protection from infectious and harmful invaders, self-preservation and self-worth go out the window. So the acquisition of freedom, like I said, is replaced with platitudes showing our developed trite nature. We are people who are caught up in sayings more than the actual meaning of what we're saying. Hold on. Freedom has been replaced because we are unable to protect ourselves from harmful infectious invaders. So self-preservation and self-worth go out the window. And so we replace the actual manifestation of freedom with false, empty sayings that have no value. The word freedom is a powerful thing. Justice is a powerful thing. Equity is a powerful thing. Peace, love, these are powerful things. But because they have no meaning no more, because we are afraid and unwilling to give them meaning by sacrificing, doing what it takes to make those words come to life, they become nothing but empty words. What are words? Words are tools to build. But if you don't understand if you don't pick up that tool and use it, it's just an inanimate object. So now you see why so much disdain. I said that trite nature that we've developed. Hear me and hear me clear. The reactivation of integrity, honor, and principle is the reactivation of that gut brain, which is directly connected at a scientific level, I'm talking about science now, to the immune system that affects our thinking, feelings, and behavior far greater than our neurological system. when the people can't follow their gut, when you can't be motivated by your heart, not in an emotional, convoluted way, but I mean you're focused. You are precise. You are disciplined. You are always in a mode of never overriding your ability to do what is right first for yourself and for others. Shalom, shalom. Man, I can't go over there. That gut kicks in. I know the likelihood of me making out there is not worth me taking the risk. Your gut kicks in. Your gut. But it's been disconnected. That's why fear has been used at such an extent. We've become such a fearful people because fear is not just an emotional weapon, but it's a chemical and a biological one as well. They know by eating certain foods, you become more fearful. They know by taking in certain conversations, certain visuals, you become more fearful. They know by a lack of constructive exercise, you become more fearful. Because when you're in shape, you're more willing to do certain things. When you eat properly, you're more willing and you operate at a better level. When you get truth, when you hear truth, you're less likely to be moved or dissuaded by lies and deception. So it's a gradual and slight, imperceptible change in your behavior and perception that is the product that fear produces. That's what it is. Now I want to play real quick Donald Trump at the last debate. I want you to listen to what he said and we're going to break it down.
You have repeatedly criticized the vice president for not specifically calling out Antifa and other left-wing extremist groups. But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland?
Sure,
are you
I'm
prepared
willing to do
specifically
that, but
do it? Well, go ahead, sir.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
So what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace.
Then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it.
Do you want to call him? What do you want to call him? Give me a name. Give me a
white
name.
Supremacists and
who would
white
you like me to condemn?
White supremacists and right
Proud
militia.
Boys, stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem. This is a left-wing.
Did you hear? I'm going to play that one more time. And I know all of you have been listening to it. I know most of us have heard it already. But I want you to hear how we are in the valley of decision right now. You can't hide behind sweet words and empty sayings no more. You can't hide behind broken promises and empty wishful thinking anymore. You have the president of these United States articulate his inability to denounce murderous white supremacists. Did you hear me? He said, no, stand back, but stand by. Be ready. Because we taking this back. What choice do you have? And listen to the language of Biden. He said, what you want me? You denounce, the moderator said, you denounce white supremacy. He said, oh, no, you can't. He said, denounce the Proud Boys again. That's what the liberals do. They try to classify white supremacists as one fringe group, one small fringe group. The hell you talking about, Joe Biden? You're a white supremacist. Through your own actions, your own words. Don't be a coward. At least be like Trump and embrace it. That's what you want. That's what you want to do. But don't try to hide behind the mask of being a friend of our people. Well, he has a black vice president running mate. You talking about that woman who has no connection to black America and who found joy and bliss in locking up black men? You talking about her? Oh, okay. We'll play it again.
You have repeatedly criticized the vice president for not specifically calling out Antifa and other left-wing extremist groups. But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland?
Sure,
are you
I'm
prepared
willing
to
do
specifically
that, but
do it? Well, go ahead, sir.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
So what do you add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland?
Sure,
are you
I'm
prepared
willing to do
specifically
that, but
do it? Well, go ahead, sir.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
So what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace.
Then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it.
Do you want to call him? What do you want to call him? Give me a name. Give me a
white
name.
Supremacists and
who would
white
you like me to condemn?
White supremacists and right
Proud
militia.
Boys, stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem. This is a left-wing.
FBI director
This is a left-wing problem.
White supremacists.
Now, I want you to understand, because we emotionally get involved in these things and we try to immerse ourselves in these realities as if this is the problem. See, this is another form of behavior modification. But I do want to say this before I touch on that point, that you can see how Joe Biden is blaming the right, Donald Trump is blaming the left, the Proud Boys are fault, no, Antifa, those other radical white supremacist groups that's in Portland and Seattle and those places who want a different type of form of white supremacy. We're entering in, this is very reminiscent, and it reminds me of the mid-1800s. This country is going into civil war. Got to be aware of that. Not just this country, but I believe all European Western nations are about to plummet into a civil war. And guess what? You're not just caught in the middle. And you're not just participating. You're the prize of this war, just like you were before. How are they going to control their slaves? What they going to do with their slaves? Because you taking this approach that you oblivious to what's actually going on, and you caught up in what Donald Trump saying, stand back and stand by. But he already told you, there's good people on both sides. That's what he said when those white people killed other white people. Because he's not really dog whistling. He's telling you exactly what's going on. But you, because we have succumbed to this mental illness, through behavior modification, the reprogram, the rewiring of the brain, have made it a personal thing. Let's get Donald Trump out of office. Let's vote him out. Vote or die. Didn't we do that before? What benefit did it have? I say, let Donald Trump get back in so that you know that there's no course of redress. So you can't hide behind a black face and an old senile white man who's not as overt and openly honest with his intentions and his desires. Give us Agent Orange so that we can finally stand up and do for self. So I'm ending this here because we're already at an hour almost. And I can go on and on. I do, before I say this, I want to play this clip that I played at the beginning. I want to play it one more time.
Now, many of our Christians have what I call the goo-goo syndrome. Good government. They want everybody to vote. I don't want everybody to vote. Elections are not won by a majority of people. They never have been from the beginning of our country, and they are not now. As a matter of fact...
Now, I'm playing that clip because I want, as I close that part out, to resonate. America has never been, or presidents, or ran by people electing, mass numbers electing, and he said it never will. That was in 1980. Never will. Listen, change doesn't happen by casting a ballot or participating. All change has become with overthrowing or removing the current regime that's in place. And if you're not willing to do that, the best option is to go do for self. The problem is with moving that, you're probably going to implement the same thing anyway, and it'll have the same result. So it's best that we listen to the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, listen to Honorable Excellency Ben-Ami and Marcus Garvey, those of that ilk. Get a nation for yourself. Get a nation for yourself. The solution and the only solution is to produce and protect a nation of our own. Of our own. Built on integrity and morality, which is rooted in the precepts of justice and fairness. Don't dismiss what I'm saying. Even if you heard it before, even if you're going to hear it again. Finally, take and appreciate the reality of somebody, and we have others, presenting this message and working in this great vineyard, which is the salvation of our people, which is separation of those righteous from those who are wicked, choosing to be wicked. I could be doing other things just like you could be doing other things. But why not do the most important thing and the most productive thing, which is produce for self and protect our investment? Ownership is only solidified by how far and how much you are willing to protect. So there is no acquisition of a nation if we're not also protecting the nation too. On all ends, physically, mentally, spiritually, and socially. So we don't just need a revolution, we need an evolution of the physical construct, but an evolution of the mind, an evolution of the spirit, evolution of the body, evolution of the thought, the conversations, and the social construct that we're governed in. A cultural evolution. Thank you again for listening. As I leave you, as I greeted you in the words of peace, shalom alaikum, assalamu alaikum, peace be unto you. Leave out with my brother Nip. Back home. Also, shop black royalty, shop black royalty, shop black royalty.
Mogul and they know that. Logo on my flow mat. Courtside Chamberlain throwback match my Rolex. Everywhere I go.